True fans live for their team. For those true U of A fans, there is Hughes Federal Credit Union. Show your U of A spirit and put technology and convenience at your fingertips. Hughes Federal Credit Union. Smart choice.
Welcome to Greg Hansen's Video Notebook, brought to you by Hughes Federal Credit Union. I'm Star Sports Editor Ryan Finley here with Greg Hansen. Greg, the college football coaching carousel seems to get started a little bit earlier every year. This year, it's a little ridiculous. 2 high-profile head coaches gone. Steve Sarkisian leaves USC following another embarrassing moment. And the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, has resigned effective immediately from South Carolina. Is there any way to connect the two, or is it just 2 kind of strange one-off situations?
Yeah, 2 strange, separate incidents, and I think they'll be immediately forgotten because of the way college football works. Now it's all a matter of the conjecture, who's next? And that will occupy the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, won't it?
Right, and this is to say nothing of 2 other coaches, Randy Edsall at Maryland and Dan McCarney at North Texas, both of whom were fired over the weekend too. And we are in week 6.
Yeah, it's and it's going to, year by year, it's going to happen more and more this way.
Right.
Less patience and more available money to buy guys out.
Is that what all this comes down to, Greg, is that if you're paying these guys millions upon millions of dollars every year, you have an expectation for them to win. When they don't, you can just write another check because you are flush with money?
There's no patience anywhere, is there?
I don't think so.
See, I mean, Arizona State, after they got to the Rose Bowl in the late 80s, I mean, they were so bland for about 10 years, but they kept their guys for 5 or 7 years, Larry Marmee, because they didn't have enough money to pay him off.
Right.
That would never happen now.
No, never. I mean, you even look a little bit at Arizona's situation. I mean, when you remember Mike Stoops, there was a lot of talk about, well, you know, do you let him finish up his deal because you don't want to buy him out? Then they got bad enough that they sort of had to. Let's talk a little bit here about both South Carolina and SC, and why not Maryland while we're talking about it. Rich Rodriguez's name will be brought up in some way, shape, or form with all 3 jobs. He's going to be a hot-ish candidate if he can turn this season around. If he does, who do you think talks to him first?
See, I don't bite on the Maryland one. No. I just don't see Maryland as a place that turns your head unless you're from there. I think South Carolina turns your head and almost lassos you and takes you out there. Rich Rod has a summer home, you know, about 100 miles away from Columbia, South Carolina.
Ooh.
And he coached at Clemson, which is like 70 miles away. That's the one that I think, but everybody in Tucson's going to say that. They're going to fret that Rich Rod's going to go to South Carolina. But he's got to win 3 or 4 more games to still be good enough to go.
Right, and that's it. The fact is he has to go 7-5 or 8-4 this year, I think, to be attractive enough to justify somebody coming to get him, right?
That's what you think. But his name is hot.
Yeah.
And they remember good things about him. And they think, well, you don't have to win at Arizona. What he did there last year, 10 wins, is pretty good. If he goes 6-6, I could still see South Carolina reeling him in.
Wow. The USC, you know, the old rule of thumb is you got to go 180 from the guy you just fired. Who is 180 from Steve Sarkisian?
Todd Graham.
Todd Graham.
Mr. Disciplinarian, crew cut guy, goes in and kicks people in the butt. Kind of guy they haven't had. Hey, I would hire that guy. I would hire him tomorrow.
See, if I'm talking the opposite of Sark, I'm thinking 2 guys. Kyle Whittingham at Utah.
Not going. No chance. He is Mr. Salt Lake City.
Bronco Mendenhall at BYU.
No chance.
Let's make an argument. Give me 5 seconds on Bronco Mendenhall. He wins games. He doesn't have a league. He will never be able to play for a national championship. He's young. He's a disciplinarian. He's not hot like he was 3 or 4 years ago. But if you're trying to build a culture, he's a pretty good guy to build around.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
He is Mr. Mormon. And so is Kyle Whittingham and their families and their extended families. And growing up there, that is such a tug. If you sever those ties, it's almost never done.
Right.
Lavelle Edwards never left there.
It's true. It's true.
Can you imagine how many people came after Lavelle Edwards?
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
He didn't bite. Maybe one of these guys will bite just to get something different. But living in LA, after you live in the wonderful quality of life of Provo and Salt Lake City, that's what a life change.
Say this about Whittingham and about Bronco Mendenhall. They would never slur their words at a booster function.
No. And Sark is a BYU grad.
I know.
That's where It's kind of funny to a Utah guy.
For what it's worth, he only went there for 2 years.
Yeah. And Jim McMahon kind of set the pace for him.
That's very true. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Greg Hansen's Video Notebook, brought to you by Hughes Federal Credit Union. For Greg Hansen, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.
True fans live for their team. They buy the gear, they order the tickets, they pay for the seats and the experiences. For those true U of A fans, thankfully there is Hughes Federal Credit Union, offering the latest payment choices such as U of A debit cards, paying online, paying a friend with pop money, or using Apple Pay with your mobile phone. Show your U of A spirit and put technology and convenience at your fingertips. Hughes Federal Credit Union, smart choice.